Good afternoon. The Judiciary Committee will come to order, and without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. Obviously, this is a stunning, shocking day for all of us, and I think that the one thing that the Chief Deputy Whip would want us to be doing would be to make sure that this institution continues to function. But I do want to express my gratitude to him and to the United States Capitol Police. His security detail were very heroic this morning, so I want to particularly acknowledge Officers Bailey and Greiner, who were wounded in attacking, going forward to take this shooter out. And I have no doubt that they saved many lives in doing so. This is a good time also to reflect on the need for, as the ranking member often says, when we have our contentious debates, both here and outside, and a reminder to people who are not members of Congress but have strongly held views on the issues of the day, that we can disagree without being disagreeable. I know from many years working with the former chairman that that's the best approach to resolving our differences. So without objection, I'd ask that the members of the committee join in a moment of silence to reflect and pray for the victims of this assault. Thank you. I now recognize the gentleman from Michigan, and then after that, I'll introduce our new member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to, as with all our colleagues, join with you in the sentiments that you just expressed. My thoughts and prayers are with those who were victims of the shooting this morning in Alexandria, Virginia. Our entire congressional family, and it is one, is outraged at this act of violence against our members, staff, and first responders, including our brave Capitol Police officers, and I offer my full support to Representative Scalise and all of those affected now and in the coming days. The attack we saw this morning is an attack on all of us and our very system of government. We need to do everything within our power to prevent any such violence from occurring in the future. I thank the gentleman.
I thank the gentleman, and I'd like to take the opportunity now to introduce our new member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman John Rutherford joins the committee from the 4th District of Florida. As a former law enforcement officer and sheriff of Duval County, his expertise on our criminal justice system makes him particularly well suited to serve on the Judiciary Committee. While serving as sheriff, he used a model of intelligence-led and community-based policing to dramatically improve neighborhoods and prevent crime throughout his community, cutting violent crime in Jacksonville to a 40-year low. I hope you'll all join me in welcoming to the Judiciary Committee. And I again yield to the ranking member, if you want to say anything about it.
I just want him to know that all of us are welcoming you. It's a great committee. I've been on it several decades and have never regretted it. So welcome aboard.
And no one knows that better than the ranking member.
Oh boy.
Pursuant to notice, I now call up H.J. Res. 76 for purposes of markup and move that the committee report the resolution favorably to the House. The clerk will report the resolution.
H.J. Res. 76, granting the consent and approval of Congress for the Commonwealth of Virginia, the State of Maryland, and the District of Columbia to enter into a compact relating to the establishment of the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission.
Without objection, the resolution is considered as read and open for amendment at any time, and I'll begin by recognizing myself for an opening statement. House Joint Resolution 76 grants Congress's approval to the Metro Rail Safety Commission Interstate Compact, an interstate compact entered into recently by the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland, and the District of Columbia. The safety record of the D.C. area Metro Rail system and other public transit systems in our country has been a matter of increasing concern for some time. To better address public transit safety needs, including Metro Rails, Congress included in the Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century Act and the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act provisions strengthening the Federal Transit Administration's safety oversight authority and related safety requirements for public transit systems. Pursuant to these acts and through the Metro Rail Safety Commission Interstate Compact, Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia have committed to establish a new Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission to act as the safety oversight authority for the Metro Rail system. The Transportation Infrastructure Committee has informed us that the compact's provisions satisfy the requirements of the relevant federal statutes. The jurisdictions completed in March 2017 their adoption by legislation of their respective compact instruments. In the interim, however, due to delays in the adoption of the instruments, the FTA invoked on February 9, 2017, authority to suspend the distribution of transit funds to the jurisdictions until the new Safety Commission is established. By passage of House Joint Resolution 76, we can hasten the day by which Metro Rail safety will be improved and funds obligated for other impacted transit systems in the compact jurisdictions can be made available for release. I urge all members to support the resolution and now recognize the ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you. I rise in support of this measure, a bipartisan one for several reasons. H.J. Res. 76 would grant the consent and approval of Congress for Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia to enter into a compact establishing the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission. I support this bipartisan measure because, most importantly, this commission will help improve the safety of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, which provides transportation services for millions of people each year. Unfortunately, there have been a series of serious safety violations at the authority, some of which have tragically led to deaths and injuries. Even though such dangerous conditions are obviously inexcusable, they nevertheless have persisted for many years. In response to these critical concerns, the District of Columbia, together with the states of both Virginia and Maryland, have passed legislation agreeing to enter into an interstate compact establishing an oversight commission dedicated to improving the safety of the authority. Clearly, this undertaking will help ensure that the association's passengers and workers, as well as many communities that WMATA serves, have a safe, efficient, and reliable mass transit system. In addition, House Joint Resolution 76 warrants our support because it implements Congress's 2015 directive to the states to establish legal and financially independent state oversight authorities responsible for the safety of fixed rail transit facilities within their respective jurisdiction. By granting our consent and approval of the interstate compact to be established pursuant to this resolution, we are fulfilling our responsibility to help ensure the safety of our nation's rail system. Finally, prompt consideration of H.J. Res. 76 is imperative. When Congress issued its 2015 directive, it did so with strings attached. A state's failure to comply with this directive would result in a suspension of federal rail transit funding. Accordingly, the Transportation Department's Federal Transportation Authority suspended its distribution of federal transit funds to the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia until the new Safety Commission was established. Thus, every day that goes by without action on this resolution is another day that these jurisdictions are deprived of critical funding, and I think that's important. So I encourage all of my colleagues on this committee to join me in supporting swift passage of H.J. Res. 76. I thank the chairman and yield back the balance of any time.
The chair thanks the gentleman and recognizes himself for purposes of offering an amendment. Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to H.J. Res. 76 offered by Mr. Goodlatte of Virginia. Page 2.
Without objection, the amendment be considered as read, and I will now recognize myself to explain the amendment. I have a manager's amendment at the desk as a protective matter. Resolutions that approve interstate compacts and compact amendments regularly contain several standard clauses. These clauses set forth respectively Congress's right to alter, amend, or repeal the resolution, instructions regarding construction and severability of the compacts or amendments provisions, a rule that the compacts or amendments' validity shall not be affected by insubstantial differences in the language adopted by the respective compacting jurisdictions, and an effective date for the resolution. House Joint Resolution 76 does not yet include these clauses. Out of an abundance of caution and for the benefit of Congress and the compacting jurisdictions, the manager's amendment adds these clauses to the resolution. I urge my colleagues to support the amendment and
Mr.
reserve
Chairman.
the balance of my time. Recognize the gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you. I'm pleased to support the chairman's amendment, which simply adds certain standard clauses typically used for interstate compact consent resolutions. Specifically, these provisions set forth Congress's authority to alter, amend, or repeal the resolution, provide for a liberal rule of construction and severability, describe terms for resolving inconsistencies among the instruments by which the jurisdictions entered into the compact, and finally specify the resolution's effective date. These additional clauses are similar to those utilized in a prior resolution, which granted Congress's consent to certain amendments to a compact, the WMATA compact, approved in the 111th Congress. Accordingly, I urge my colleagues to support the amendment. And, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of the time. Thank you.
The question occurs, for what purpose the gentleman from Maryland seek recognition?
Move to strike the last word, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I rise in strong support of H.J. Res. 76, which grants congressional consent and approval to Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia to enter into a compact establishing the Metro Safety Commission. And I want to thank the distinguished Minority Whip, Steny Hoyer, for leading us on this measure, and all of my colleagues in the Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. delegations for supporting it in a strong bipartisan fashion. I'm proud to join them. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to take a moment to say a word about the Metro system, because I know that different members of this committee are either more or less familiar with the Metro system. It was built throughout the 1960s and the early 70s. It was finally completed in 1976 when I was a freshman in high school. And living here, I can tell you it had a tremendous transformative effect on the whole region. And it was really the jewel of the Washington area. And I hope that every member will just take a moment to reflect upon the way in which our Metro system is so critical to the functioning of the federal government and therefore the functioning of the United States. The Metro system moves around half of the federal workforce every day to and from work, including, I dare say, probably half or more of the people who work in our offices. It's essential to national security. If we didn't have the Metro system, what's already one of the 2 or 3 worst traffic-ridden regions in the country would be really completely hamstrung by traffic. But it's also the way that millions of Americans who come from all over America, all of our constituents, come and move around the capital region and get to go to see the White House and the Capitol and explore the museums and go see the Pentagon and go see NIH and so on. The Metro is critical not just to the people who live and work here and make the federal government go, but also to all American citizens who rely on the efficiency of the federal government and come and see and partake and petition for redress of grievances their government. So I think it's something that's essential for all of us. I'm thrilled that this legislation responding to the crying safety needs of the system is moving forward now. It's essential that we continue to invest in it. You know, the federal government was instrumental in the creation of Metro at the beginning, along with Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. We send representatives to the board of Metro, so we're an equal partner in it, and I just want to make sure all of us feel as deeply invested in the success of Metro as the founding generation did that created it way back when. The jurisdictions that are part of it, Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, are all stepping up to the plate to work on the safety issues, and I'm glad that Congress is prepared to do so with the passage of H.J. Resolution 76. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the remainder of my time.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure, thanks. Gentleman from Texas, seek recognition.
I rise to strike the last word.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I express my wanted to indicate to my colleagues that I was delayed in some meetings dealing with the incident this morning, but I'm not sure if a quorum has been made, and I hope that I will add to making the quorum. But what I do want to do is rise to support both H.J. Res. 76 and H.J. Res. 92, which I know has not been called up. I think the meritorious arguments that my colleague from Maryland has made is very convincing. At the same time, I want to personally, on the record of the Judiciary Committee as the ranking member on the Crime Subcommittee, offer my greatest appreciation to the Capitol Police. As the details have unfolded, there is no doubt that lives were saved and a massive, horrific incident was avoided by the actions of the 2 officers who aggressively went after the perpetrator. They were wounded, but obviously our dear friend and colleague, my neighbor in Louisiana, was wounded, and heroics of a number of members who were there who came to his aid, the staff and volunteer that was injured, all should be in our thoughts and prayers. And I thank the chairman and the ranking member for allowing us to not proceed with some of the other legislative initiatives, at least on this day. And I hope that all of us will realize the responsibility that we have in healing the nation. There is nothing wrong with discourse. I don't think that we should punish ourselves for a democratic discourse that sometimes gets a little strong. But the glory of this country is that we can speak in a democratic way and not have it end in violence. But we know that we have responsibilities to those hurting constituents or those who decide that that is the way they want to act for whatever the motive will ultimately be determined of this individual. And so I would hope that this committee that is known for its vigor will be able to talk, maybe not today, but to assess security as relates to members and their offices. For sometimes we do ourselves a disservice. We are nothing but humble servants. Sometimes we put ourselves less than that. And we don't think of our families and staff that are in different offices across this country. So I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, that we will be able to discuss in the appropriate jurisdictional manner. There are a number of committees, a number of leadership are going to be thinking about these issues, but how do we secure our staff and offices? And at least that we will interject into that discussion. I think it's important. And I also think it's important that we have the opportunity to discuss some other issues that we seem to be fearful of, is that who has weapons and who does not. I do not choose to discuss that today. I choose just to continue to pray for those who've been wounded and those who've been impacted by this tragedy, and pray for the nation, and let this be a day of reflection. So, Mr. Chairman, I support the underlying two bills. The first one is up, the second is not, and hopefully that the quorum continues, or at least it has been established. In case I have to depart, I wanted to put that on the record for some other meetings that are being called on this very issue. With that, I yield back.
The chair thanks the gentlewoman. The question occurs on the amendment offered by the chairman. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. Are there any other amendments to House Joint Resolution 76? A reporting quorum being present, the question is on the motion to report the House Joint Resolution 76 as amended favorably to the House. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is ordered reported favorably. Members will have 2 days to submit views, and without objection, the resolution will be reported as a single amendment in the nature of a substitute, incorporating all adopted amendments, and the staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes. Pursuant to notice, I now call up House Joint Resolution 92 for purposes of markup and move that the committee report the resolution favorably to the House. The clerk will report the resolution.
H.J. Res. 92, granting the consent and approval of Congress for the Commonwealth of Virginia, the State of Maryland, and the District of Columbia to amend the Washington Area Transit Regulation Compact.
Without objection, the resolution is considered as read and open for amendment at any time, and I'll begin by recognizing myself for an opening statement. Like the resolution just considered, House Joint Resolution 92 concerns the Washington Area Transit System. The resolution makes needed administrative amendments to the longstanding Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Regulation Compact. These amendments are required under Section 3026 of the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act. That section transferred from the Administrator of General Services to the Secretary of Transportation sole authority to appoint federal directors to the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's Board of Directors. It further required Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia to adopt any necessary conforming amendments to the Washington Area Transit Regulation Compact. The jurisdiction's adopted amendments as required, and the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee informs us that these amendments satisfy the demands of Section 3026. House Joint Resolution 92 accordingly grants Congress approval to the amendments. I want to thank the gentlewoman from Virginia, Ms. Comstock, for this resolution, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Hoyer, the minority leader, for the previous resolution. I urge all members to support this resolution and recognize the gentleman from Michigan for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, House Joint Resolution 92 would grant Congress's consent to certain amendments to the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Regulation Compact Authority, pursuant to legislation enacted by both the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. These amendments were in turn prompted by Congress under the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act of 2015. This act provided sole authority to the Secretary of Transportation to appoint federal directors to the Board of Directors of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Regulation Compact. House Joint Resolution 92 is a bipartisan measure co-sponsored by all of the congressional members representing jurisdictions affected by the Metro Rail system. I support this common sense measure. I thank the chairman for facilitating its consideration today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Are there any amendments to H.J. Res. 92? A reporting quorum being present, the question is on the motion to report House Joint Resolution 92 favorably to the House. Those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is ordered reported favorably. Members will have 2 days to submit views. And that concludes our business for today. We thank all the members for attending, and the markup is adjourned.
Never has there been such harmony.